For me, as I said before, experience is key. So a company with no experience means problems.
That you can consolidate your technology, your vendor, and you are able to flex. So you as well are able to grow, or you are able to reduce, or you are able to move your systems from one side to the other. That's also important. If you are working with the same vendor, it's usually easier to do this kind of activities.
The most important thing is to make sure that you find someone who can help you with your strategy from a company perspective. If that strategy involves a global presence, you might also consider making sure that there is a global presence in your vendor so they can support you regardless of where you are.
What do we actually buy from our vendor, right? So we're saying, oh, we buy robots. Yeah, sure. But are we also buying solutions? Are we buying the knowledge of how to design those solutions?
Welcome to the Mobile Robot Directory Podcast, your guide to the world of autonomous mobile robots and automated guided vehicles. Join us as we explore the latest in mobile robotics, with industry experts offering insights and tips for enthusiasts, professionals, and newcomers alike.
Welcome everybody to the Mobile Robot Podcast. This is our third episode. My name is Emil, Jensen, founder of the Mobile Robot Directory. I'm here with our resident expert and founder of Moving Robots, co-founder also of Mobile Robot Directory, Javier Miguélez. Welcome, Javier.
Well, welcome and good morning, Emil.
And we have a couple of distinguished guests today. First of all, Martin Törnqvist from Kollmorgen. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And we also have Mario Soriano-Griñes from Yabfeng.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to be here.
Javier, what is our topic today?
We have a very interesting topic today, Emil. Today we're going to discuss about how to select the correct vendor, the correct mobile robot vendor. And that's the reason why we have no vendors today here in the podcast. We have a user who is Mario, and we have a tech provider who is Martin. So today's topic. Let's see how we can select the correct vendor for our use case.
That's a huge topic, right? So where do we start? Maybe let's think about the characteristics that a vendor must have.
So I would like to talk first a little bit about the context, and for me, the context of the mobile robotics industry right now is that there are many companies. There are small and medium and large companies dedicated to mobile robots, and every day we can see more and more and more and more and more popping up, just like mushrooms. So it's kind of difficult to select a correct vendor for a use case. For me, I always say that a vendor with experience is mandatory. But I guess that Mario has an interesting point of view from his side. How important do you think is experience?
So experience is important, but before me touching the topic of experience, I will say that selecting a good technical solution, it's from my point of view, is even more important. So it means like your technology is fitting perfectly your process, is fitting perfectly what you need to move, whatever you need to transport, or the process that you want to automate. That's super important, because if not, you can end up having a huge problem. You can end up not following the scope of your project, not meeting your return of investment, and that's a big problem. So that I will say that for me it's the first topic, and then later for sure we can go to the cost, we can go to the experience, we can go to the software and system package that it's linked to the solution. But that's briefly what I will say, that for me is the most important thing will be that a good technical solution.
Okay, remember that I am a consultant. So as a consultant, it's me making the technical design, and then it comes the vendor. So typically for me, let's say that the design, the technical design, comes from the consultant part. It doesn't come from the vendor, but it is true that 90% of the cases, the technical design comes from the vendor.
Yeah, but I'm talking, for example, from the point of view that you want to move a pallet from one side to the other, and then you're selecting, instead of lifting technology, you are selecting a towing technology, right? And then you're selecting a vendor that is giving you this kind of technology. but maybe you can end up in a good situation, right? And it's not fitting perfectly your process, or it's I don't know, a magnetic tape guiding instead of QR code guiding. So that's what I mean, like having a good technical solution.
Actually, I think, Javier, this is a really good sort of way to think about is what do we actually buy from our vendor, right? So we're saying, oh, we buy robots, yeah, sure, but are we also buying solutions? Are we buying the knowledge of how to design those solutions? What are we buying when we are selecting vendors?
For me, you're buying a solution. You're never buying an AGV or a mobile robot or an AMR. That's my point of view. Martin, what do you think?
Yeah, I can build on that solution part, and maybe also technology aside. Well, let's if we look at it from a bigger picture. If you have a strategy, which most company has, I would say that the most important thing is to make sure that you find someone who can help you with your strategy from a company perspective. If that strategy involves a global presence, you might also consider making sure that there is a global presence in your vendor so they can support you regardless of where you are in the world. And of course, with technology comes quality. So making sure that there is a good lifecycle handling. If something breaks, will the company be still there around for 5 or 10 years later to help you to fix it? I mean, there are a lot of things more than just the technology or the solution, because AGV and AMR systems, they tend to live for quite long. So it's not a 1-2 year event. It could be there for 5, 10, 20 years. And you want to make sure that it actually delivers that A to B transport over time as well, not only the first year. And when vendor hands over your keys to the systems, you must make sure that actually works in the long run as well.
That's an interesting point of view, because most of the people, I think, when they buy an AGV or AMR system, they are only thinking about the first 5 years. Not, but then it is true that there are many AGV systems running for 15 or 20 years. I think that's a point that most of the companies are missing somehow. This is a long term decision. It's never a short term. Mario, what do you say about this point regarding the lifetime of an AEV?
Yeah, of course, it's super important. You need to keep running when we are doing the calculation for return of investment. So let's not forget that we are thinking that we are having a saving and we are having an improvement in our processes. So keeping alive these AGVs and the technology in your side, I think it's as well one of the key parameters that you can carry on this improvement in your factories or in your industry or service through the years. So it's very important that you can have a partner or a vendor that is able to keep alive your system and is going to be supporting you for a long time.
Actually, there are many companies that never last more than 3, 4, 5 years, and all those AGVs around that they have delivered, they have installed, who's going to maintain or to service those systems? That's part of the decision. Not only that the AGV is robust, but that the AGV is that the company is gonna last for many years, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
So if I get this right, the advice here is don't just look at the specific task that you want to automate right now, but think about it as building a relationship with a vendor that you're going to be relying on at least somewhat for many, many years to come. And Martin, is there also a sort of vendor lock-in that once you have robots from vendor A running in your facility, that sort of you are stuck with vendor A? Is that a thing, or is that now getting less and less so with some of the interoperability that we are seeing? How worried should I be about vendor lock-in?
I mean, on a general note, I would say that if you have chosen, again, if we go from the strategy of the company, if that is if your strategy is if the strategy tells you that interoperability is a very important thing for you, you should choose a vendor which you can trust to deliver that in the short term and in the long term. So with the right choice and the right vendor that you can trust, I would not be worried about locking from that vendor. I would making sure that I choose a vendor who can deliver a complete system and that can build that system and expand that system over time, with or without interoperability with other vendors. So I would not be too worried about that.
Same question for you, Mario. How do you think about dependency on vendors, and also whether having robot A in your factory prevents you from later deploying another robot from another vendor? Is that something that is part of your strategic thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's always better to, when you are thinking about the strategy, as mentioned by Martin, usually and as well, if you are thinking about flexibility for whatever is happening in the next years in your factories or in your industry, that you can consolidate your technology, your vendor, and you are able to flex. So you as well are able to grow, or you are able to reduce, or you are able to move your systems from one side to the other. That's also important. If you are working with the same vendor, it's usually easier to do this kind of activities than if you're having different vendors. So in terms of flexibility, and I think nowadays we are getting into a world where we need a lot of flexibility, it's as well super important, because then you are faster in order to implement these kind of solutions. If you are working only with one vendor, when we are talking about different vendors working in your site, it needs a lot of coordination. It needs first of all technical solution as well, that it's feasible to work between them. So generally speaking, I think that usually having the strategy to work with one vendor that is consolidated in the market, that is able to help you and support you in a good way, is always better for your business or your industry.
I guess that there are other points of view in the company, particularly when it comes to the purchasing department.
Yeah. yeah. That was interesting.
Javier, can you help us think about how should we structure the selection process, right? So we need to choose the right robot for the job. We need to choose a vendor that has a good reputation, has years of experience, quality comes into play. So there's a mix of technology and vendor, what kind of company it is, and service afterwards, and solution design. There are many factors that come into play. How should we filter on each of them? Where do we start? What is if I go to a mobile robot directory, I will find 300 different companies. What should be the first thing I filter on? And then how do I narrow down my selection step by step?
Okay, I start. For me, as I said before, experience is key. So a company with no experience means problems. So unless you are going for them because you want a very niche solution or very niche application, or even in those cases, it would be hard for me to decide. But typically, I would go for a company with experience, a company with very little experience, and I am talking here about number of AGVs and number of projects, both things. So it's not only I have one project with 1,000 AGVs. That shouldn't be enough. But having 20 projects of 10 AGVs shouldn't be enough. So we're talking about large amounts. For me, that is key. And for me, the other point that I always insist on is the fact that the vendor that you select has to provide the service. So it's not the point that we mentioned before, that the company, that your vendor has to last for 10 years or for 15 years. It is that the service has to be performed by them, and has to be performed by them from a near facility, not from 2,000 or 10,000 kilometers away. So service and experience, for me, these are the two most important topics. Leaving aside the fact that you have to select for sure the correct AEV, and you have to make a good design. But as I work as a consultant, that for me is the job of the consultant, not the job of the vendor. So from a vendor perspective, I would say experience and service. That's the two most important things. And if they have experience, the project will work. And if they have service, the project will work. If you do not have any of these two, forget about it. It's never going to work.
So Javier, I think I will build on that. So, and I agree that with the experience for me is means that the vendor will supply you with a complete package, basically, and so they will supply you with, first of all, the experience will tell you that they will actually solve your logistic problem, and that also means that they will have to do that so it just works over time for the lifespan of the system. So the experience will make sure that there is a good after sales service, or that there is a service and other services that you might need to make sure that the system works and delivers what is expected. So I don't think we necessarily have to choose between these two. I think they are definitely hand in hand. And the experience, I agree, the experience will give the other part as an effect.
Not so sure about it, because you maybe have a very good mobile robot vendor in North America, in, I know, for example, the United States, but then you discover, I think that we have to mute Martin. Can you mute? No. So for me, maybe you have the experience, but you are located in North America and you are providing AGVs to, for example, South Africa. So the service there is like far away. So it's very difficult to give a very good service if you are like 10,000 miles away. Maybe you can find a local partner or something like that. That could be the solution. But the service has to be located next, not next to the, not exactly next to the system, but not far away, not like 2,000 kilometers away or 3,000 kilometers away. If you do that, most probably you will be facing problems at some point. Because AEV systems are not like they work 24/7 non-stop with no human intervention. There's always some little intervention.
So Javier, this brings me to the next question, which is, should I work with a system integrator or directly with the robot manufacturer? Because I could buy an American or Japanese robot and have it integrated by a system integrator in France. So how should I think about when to choose a system integrator, when to choose direct from manufacturer? And if I choose a system integrator, why not let them figure out the robot vendor, and how involved do I need to be at that point?
That's a good question. If for me, if the system integrator has experience and can provide a service next to your facilities, then I will always choose the system integrator. I will never choose the vendor. When the vendor can provide the same services at let's say at the same cost as the system integrator, I would always go for the vendor. But that's quite uncommon. Typically, the system integrator can provide better services than the vendor. What do you think, Mario?
Yeah, I agree with you, Javier. So I think as well it's case by case. So every vendor and every integrator are different. But without any doubt, if you are selecting an integrator, because it's very close to your factories or your site, and it's going to be able to give you a good experience. Then the discussion is coming if you have a vendor which is able to give you something similar. And sometimes we need as well to take care. We were having the experience as well that we were going for an integrator that was not having the experience. It was close to us, but at the end you are paying double because they are like the guys that are in the middle between you and the vendor. So your problems are delay and the solutions are delay as well. So you need as well to take care with that wrong scenario, right? So it's as well kind of dangerous because you will be paying double and as well getting your problem solved much later.
But that's linked to the experience. If they have experience, you don't need to call the vendor. So
Correct, exactly. So if you have experience and it's close to you, I agree with you, Javier, that's the best case scenario and that's what you need to follow.
Exactly. So for me, the answer in most of the cases is go for the system integrator or go for the local integrator instead of going for the manufacturer. for sure you will be paying double, maybe not double, but there will be a margin there for the integrator for sure. But that's important. And there is another factor to take into account, which is the language. So imagine that you have an AGV manufacturer in Pakistan, and it is installed here by Pakistani people. So with language problems and culture problems. So this is something you avoid if you're working with a local integrator, and that's one of the that's part of the added value of the local integrator.
Of course. Even more if you as a customer, you are not having experience, you don't have an engineering team on site. It's also even more important, right? So yeah, fully agree, Javier.
Martin, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Kollmorgen sell control system to both robot manufacturers that go into standard robots, and also do you sell to system integrators that build fully customized solutions for customers? If I want to have a AGV that does exactly the way I want it to be and has exactly the application I want, do you have both? And how would you advise customers to think about the choice between a fully customized system for them versus a more standard product? When should I choose one or the other?
Yeah, it's good that you brought up the system integrator word, which can mean different to different people. But for it sounds like a system integrator in this context would be not a standard manufacturer, more of a custom manufacturer. So if that is the system integrator, the answer is yes. We work with both. So both types are partners of Kollmorgen. So you do not need to choose. You can choose the ones that fits your needs, who can deliver your best fit for your logistic problem that you're trying to solve. And also, if you're located globally, if you're located in very exotic places, or when there should be one close by. So we have both is the answer, Emil, to your question. I guess you can also expand the system integrator concept to be someone who brings different vendors together and perhaps have the possibility to work more on the interoperability space. And then the system integrator becomes slightly larger as a concept. But yeah, the important that we have, the things that we have talked about are still important, making sure that they can deliver over time and deliver on your strategic objectives over time, and making sure that that you can trust them, basically, that they will do that, not only the first year.
Yeah, I guess the system integrator is somebody who takes different technologies and put them together in a system. So what I have experienced is that some of these companies are actually able to build full AGVs themselves versus buying a standard AGV from a robot vendor or an AMR for that matter. Mario, is that something that is part of your decision making as well? Do you look at, okay, when do I go with a standard technology, and when do I try to get something specifically for my task or the thing I'm trying to automate?
Yeah. So if we are, if we are trying to do something new, usually it's with a vendor or an integrator that we have already experience with. So it's never coming with a new vendor or a new integrator. But going to your point, I think, yeah, it's quite dangerous, right? To play with this kind of innovation, you don't have the experience, or even if you're working with an integrator which is not fully understanding the background of every system, right? So we are not. I would say we prefer to go for a more safest scenario that we can really trust what we are placing in our plant, and we will meet our return of investment, and we will not have too much risk during the implementation.
Again, experience is key.
We are going back to the point of the experience, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was having a meeting this very morning with a customer. They have they deployed a couple of AGVs from a company. I'm not going to say the name, but and I told them, but before buying those AGVs, have you visited any plant
Wow, that's super important.
with AGVs from that vendor working? And they said, yeah, in Germany. The project is in Spain. And I said, and the guys installing in Spain are the same guys installing in Germany, or they're different? They said, no, they're different. In Spain, Spanish people are installing the AGVs. And do they have an installation here in Spain? Very few. That's not going to work. So it's okay. For sure, you're facing issues, but it's very important to visit next, or not maybe not next, but at least in the same country, in the same region, a facility already working with that, because otherwise you're gonna be the newcomer for them.
Correct. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're putting together as a vendor or integrator that is having no experience, um, the technology is new as well. You are innovation. You are going to be having innovation in your factory, and as well, you cannot visit anything that they were doing before, or even getting some feedback from other customers. Then I think that that's a no-go for sure. If you want to avoid a growing journey in your factory or in your business.
Well, Javier, I think you're onto something about creating the trust. So how can you create trust from a vendor, and what things would you actually need to do? And you mentioned one good point. So have you actually visited? Have you actually seen? Are there any proven running installations where you can actually see that has the similar setup as what you're trying to buy? So it not only needs to be proven that it works, it needs to work in a setting that is similar to yours, your logistical problem. Can they prove that they have already solved that? Can they show you that? And I think that would be something that would build trust for me as well.
Agree, and the more similar, the better. Sometimes it is complicated because maybe you have a very specific application, and it's kind of difficult for the provider to say, okay, I have exactly the same. But when I visit the plant and I see AGVs that have been working there for 15 years, that provider has good experience, or that vendor. It has been working for 15 years. It should be good. Otherwise, it would not be working. And so this is like a basic, but there are many companies that they don't make a first visit or a visit to any similar deployment from the vendor, and that's kind of common. It's strange, but true.
So my next question for all of you, and then I have a follow up afterwards. But I want to hear all of your opinion on what kind of vendor should you never choose. Mario, you go first.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm repeating myself. So that vendor that is not having experience, it's testing with you a new technology. So you are trying kind of innovation with the solution, and and as well that is you cannot check or you cannot visit a place where they have something similar working. So if that is these three things are happening, I would say run away from the vendor or don't select this vendor and try to find a additional solution.
And Martin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in these turbulent times, I think financial stability would be something that you should maybe keep an eye on. I mean, are they actually around? Have they got the capacity to stick around financially over time? So that would be a very important thing for me if I would choose right now. And then, of course, the things that we're repeating as well. I mean, the trust and the lifespan of the system, and can they not do that? Can you not build a trust in that? I think you should. That's a no-go, I would say. And and will they, if they can't deliver on your needs, then you should definitely walk away.
And what do you think, Javier? Which vendors should you completely avoid?
So both Mario and Martin are right. Besides those points, I would add service. So a vendor who provides you a solution and there is no service, I am not interested, really. because the project really starts when it starts the operation, not before. And the operation is going to last for many years. No service, no deal. I run away as well.
All right, good points, guys. So here's my follow-up, Javier. What about Chinese vendors? Is it the same? I don't need to worry at all. Do I need to act differently? What are the pros and cons of choosing a Chinese robot?
Pros, the volume that they have. This means that they have experience. The cons is, I would say, language, culture, and I would add there the lack of service in some cases, because most of them, they already have local integrators or local branches. So, I mean, there are right now AGVs coming from China are a very good option from both coast and from both experience point of view. If they have service and they have local team, I would go for them. Why not?
But Mario, how about you? Do you have experience with Chinese vendors? Is it something you would recommend to others? And if so, any advice you can give on working with Chinese vendors?
Yeah, we have experience, a lot of experience working with Chinese vendors. And I will say that, as mentioned by Javier, I will remark the phrases, but if they can really ensure a good project management during the implementation, they can ensure that they will have a service, and they can ensure that they somehow the communication and afterwards the service is going to be okay. I think it should not be a problem. Yeah, so that nowadays we have very good technology and very good solutions from their side, and I think that's what we need as well to learn from. So I think it's taking care of those topics. You will guarantee that you will have a smooth implementation in your factory.
I would like to add that you have to take into account that maybe, so with the current situation, this is like geopolitics or politics, but the current situation is quite turbulent, as Martin was saying before. So you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So from, let's say, from a future point of view, it is true that you don't know what's going to happen with China or with Chinese companies. So maybe it is true that European ones are going to be are more stable solution for the future. I would say that's true.
I think it's I mean, there are so many talented companies globally, regardless of what region they're in this industry, but I think that the same thing applies to regardless of what region you're choosing your vendor from. Can they prove that they will deliver what they are supposed to deliver? Can you have the trust that they will be around and will they fit your strategy? Same, regardless of where you're picking and choosing from, that still applies.
So to summarize, my key takeaway from all of this is that it really, really matters to choose a vendor with experience, and it has to be the right kind of experience, which means in your area, hopefully in your industry as well, especially if you're choosing something more complex or custom, the industry experience is relevant. And then you need to look into after sales and who's going to take care of the whole system design. Is it the vendor of the robot, or is it the system integrator? So lots of things to think about. I think you guys helped us to put a good light on all of it. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Mario. And thank you, Javier, for being here once again. And that's a wrap for the third episode of the Mobile Robot Podcast.
Perfect. Thank you, Emil.
Thank you, Emil.
Thank you and goodbye.
You have been listening to the Mobile Robot Directory podcast. Each month on the podcast, our two host and co-founders, Emil Jensen and Javier Miguélez, talk to industry experts and take a deep dive into a specific subtopic within mobile robotics. If you haven't already, do check out the Mobile Robot Directory at www.mobile-robots.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you in the next episode.